Hey guys, it's Captain Forest here, and today I'm going to be going over a spicy crossverse Marvel vs DC matchup. In today's video, I'm going to be going over Lifebringer Galactus versus Dr. Manhattan. Now before I start this video, I'd like to say a huge shout out to the coffee shop gang. Much appreciated. They have been supporting me, of course. Make sure you check out their channels, make sure you check their links down in the description. The HQ squad, make sure you check out their channels. Shout outs to Korin, shout outs to everyone else, shout outs to KKrimbus. They all helped in the video as well. Massive shout outs to them. Their link shall be in the description. Also, I have a coffee link down in the description and a Patreon if you guys would like support on a personal level. So without further ado, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of things. So I'm going to go ahead and chop this up. I'm going to be doing this in 2 rounds. So I'm going to be talking about Lifebringer Galactus' scaling via the Superflow, and I'll talk about the Wellspring matchup. I'm going to go ahead and break it down as I go through this video. So let's start with Lifebringer. So it's noted by Cubic to have power unimaginable to the Beyonder. This is the Beyonder that became a cosmic cube. Then we have the cosmic cube being Cosmos, that is Beyonder and Molecule Man together, being told they are above most cosmic embodies, including the in-betweener. We are later told that higher manifestations of embodies are greater infinities compared to Cosmos and Cubic. Using this, we can say that the difference between each embody is more than the unimaginable difference between the cosmic cube, Beyonder and Cubic, and the fact that Cubic says there are levels to infinity, implying all of them exist, means that the gap is so massively between cosmic embodies, which means that it happens more than an infinite number of times before you can get to their true form. Now the gap between each concept being an unimaginable difference should be greater than that of the in-betweener, the concept of concepts, making each gap an outerversal difference with infinite outerversal levels, each surpassing the other. The true form of embodies would be high outerversal on Versus Battle Wiki standards, as by considering it's a realm of true concepts in comparison to embodies by lesser concepts, you can say it's high outerversal by character stats and profile definition too. Now, in other words of Lifebringer Galactus, the Superflow is the highest level, and where metaphor and reality meet, where concepts wage war. So the scaling chain mentioned above ends at the Superflow as the peak of that chain. So now another way to show this, using Absorbing Man, Overspace, and the dimensions of manifestation. Absorbing Man was made to absorb the power of Thor and Odin, yet his mind and his view of reality are unable to handle anything in the oversphere, the place where abstracts truly exist. Now we look at the dimension of manifestation, where there are numerous embodies, each implied to be a different level. We know this because the full scan this numerous embodies is stated to be where Quasar is at the trial of Adam Warlock, something that took place in the overspace. This means the dimension of manifestation contains levels of embodies, not just infinite embodies. Now when it comes to levels of reality, Doctor Strange tells us that there are a beyond infinite amount. Now again, the dimension of manifestation contains the appearance of all embodies, no matter what level of reality they are. So there is a beyond infinite number of levels to reality, each with embodies at a different level, shown as there are different levels of reality, and it includes overspace as such. Now again, in the original appearance of Absorbing Man, we are shown Asgard is an outerversal distance from Earth, and since Odin very consistently scales to the world tree, which contains this distance, Odin is easily outerversal. The start of the scaling chain is of one level of higher abstracts, the overspace, being unimaginable to the absorbing man who scales to Odin with his absorbing powers. This means the dimension of manifestation, infinite ascending layers, is infinite outerversal layers, or high outerversal on Versus Battle Wiki, and using the idea that the superflow is of true concepts in comparison to what's below it, which would mean they supersede all M bodies by default. It would make the level of the superflow high outerversal on character stats. There's two superflows, the one between universes and the one beyond all universes, multiverses, megaverses, etc. Marvel does have a platonic reality within its multiverse. This is made consistent by an alternate Earth tanking a platonic war between time and space. The truest superflow would have an archetypal transcendence over the superflow between universes, which is already layers into outer depending on how you interpret it. The microverse, which exists beyond the multiverse and into the superflow, contains infinite dream transcendences. Depending on interpretation, this could get the superflow anywhere from outer plus to infinite dream transcendences into high outerversal, and overspace a layer above that, depending on interpretation. Now that we've established the AP for Lifebringer Galactus, at least when it comes to the scaling to the superflow, I think it's time to talk about an even higher scale for the big guy. Let's talk about the Wellspring that he is powered by. You see, Lifebringer Galactus is powered by a cosmic Wellspring that is theoretically as infinite as the 8th multi-eternity. The 8th multi-eternity doesn't just encompass the superflow, but he also encompasses the neutral zone. The neutral zone itself is conceptually beyond the superflow. So depending on how you go about the scaling for the superflow, the neutral zone can range anywhere from high outerversal to conceptually transcending high outerversal. Something that supports this scale even further is the fact that Lifebringer Galactus is capable of simultaneously perceiving the totality of the 8th eternity. Now that's going to round up the AP for Lifebringer Galactus. Let's talk about the AP of the naked blue dude, Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan is feared by Mr. Mixie, who claims that Manhattan's abilities are far superior to his own. Now this is impressive due to Mixie and the 5th dimension placement in the Cosmology. But before that, let's work our way up to that level. To start, we have the bleed being on the same level as or even above the time stream. This is showcased by the monitors when inside the time stream they state that the bleed is something they can't see or control. This means that even beings that exist on the same level as the time stream is actually below the bleed. Now for why this is impressive is that we have seen consistent statements for the time stream as being beyond time and space, and it was also stated as being unaffected by the confines of time and dimensions. Now for the second way to get the bleed to outerversal, the bleed itself also contains the Rock of Eternity, which is consistently shown to be beyond space and time, with it also existing in all possible dimensions, showing that the true form of it is not just beyond normal space-time. As the bleed surrounds and contains everything in the orrery, it should contain the Shining Tower, which is stated to be located in the middle of existence, and the Shining Tower contains the concept of a concept. Now to summarize this, the bleed is outerversal as it at least exists on the same level as the time stream, while also containing the Rock of Eternity and the Shining Tower. Far beyond the bleed is the Sphere of the Gods. You may be wondering how far beyond the bleed is into it. Well, as mentioned in my Superman vs Hulk video, the Sphere of the Gods is conceptually beyond the bleed, as it's been described as a platonic archetypal world. The great realm of archetypal powers and intelligences. We established this as being in the outerversal ballpark before, due to conceptually transcending a high hyperversal structure, aka the bleed. However, applying the outerversal scaling that was presented for the bleed, the sphere of the gods skyrockets up to high outerversal ballpark. And of course, after the sphere of the gods, we have limbo, which is at least infinitely to inaccessibly beyond the sphere of the gods, followed by the monitor sphere. The monitor sphere is an archetypal realm and a fundamental world where everything is more profound and absolute, and was described as a realm of nothingness beyond the multiverse. The bleed, the sphere of the gods, and even limbo, which means it's conceptually beyond everything I previously mentioned. In other words, the monitor sphere is a high outerversal realm. If we go with the scaling mentioned in Superman vs. Hulk, it's a realm conceptually beyond high outerversal realms with the scaling that I've already applied in the versus matchup. Keep in mind, both scales are accurate. You see, I like to provide accurate versatility for my audience and give you folks multiple accurate ways to go about it, if you smell what I'm cooking. Now, as showcased in previous videos, all of creation exists inside 4 dimensions. Then we have the 5th dimension. The 5th dimension is described as existing everywhere, and that it's outside of time, which is the name of the 4th dimension. Now, the 5th dimension is described as a higher plane of existence that's more complex than the lower realms. Mixie also tells us that beings like him could not exist in a higher dimension, showcasing how beings from lower dimensions can't exist in higher ones. This would make the 5th dimension one inaccessible transcendence above the monitor sphere. Mr. Mixie, in particular, has shown himself to scale directly to the 5th dimension, destroying it without any effort in World's Funniest. This makes sense when you consider that Mr. Mixie is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, 5th dimensional imp. However, the astronomical power of Dr. Manhattan doesn't end here, folks. Now, if you thought him scaling above Mixie is impressive, then you haven't seen anything yet. In the past, Dr. Manhattan tried mending the rifts left from the different crisis that has gone down over the years. This energy was collected by the quintessence and given to Wonder Woman. When she had the power, she was not only able to fight Perpetua, but even to defeat her, with the reason she failed being because of Wonder Woman's hesitation. And once Perpetua regained her power, she casually had Anti-Monitor take control over the Ultra Monitor, while also giving him his anti-life back. Perpetua was even stated as 100 times more powerful than any version of Barbatos. Barbatos being someone who was able to strike down the World Forger. World Forger on his own being from the 6th dimension, which Mixie notes that he himself would be unable to survive existing in. Perpetua is the mother of the multiverse, which comprises of infinite timelines and 4 layers of existence, with the highest being 6th dimension. A realm that isn't just beyond the 5th dimension. No, it's beyond the source wall itself. And to begin in the 6th dimension, all of existence is like a ball that she can easily grab hold of. Now, that's gonna round up the AP for Dr. Manhattan. Let's move on down the line and talk about the versatility of the big Galactus himself brings to the table. For starters, he can manipulate matter on the subatomic level. He is able to convert physical beings into multiple things, such as an insect or even pure energy. Galactus has immense telepathic resistances and mind hacks. His mind hacks would have so many layers, considering Oblivion scales above beings like Eternity, which is the 8th cosmos. Galactus, while even before becoming a Lifebringer, was able to fight the Scryer and the other, which was threatening the entire multiverse on the level of the Chaos War. All of creation, the seventh cosmos, was at threat of being destroyed. This would mean Galactus, Scarra, and the other were also fighting on a conceptual level. Silver Surfer, who holds a very small fraction of the power cosmic, has the ability to conceptually erase something across the entire universe. Lifebringer Galactus with the Wellspring would also channel archetypal powers from the superflow and realms beyond it, such as the neutral zone, which would make him far more powerful and put him on par with the 8th cosmos. Surfer has actually interacted with realms like the astral plane, which has been stated to be the source of the power cosmic before. Using evidence from Ultimates and other comics, this would imply that the astral plane is actually located somewhere in the superflow and would be tied to eternity in general. Metatron is likewise the sentience of the 8th cosmos and would scale to that creation. Galactus's scaling to the Wellspring will also mean that he could be compared to Metatron, which would boost his conceptual existence by manyfold and would also make interacting with any of eternity's conceptual planes incredibly impressive. His powers also technically stem from the 6th cosmos, as he was merged with the dying heart of the 6th omniverse. Galactus lacks dimensionality, for his true nature is completely beyond it, referring to normal Galactus, and his attacks can attack not on just a physical, but also on other layers of beings, such as the mental, spiritual, astral, conceptual, and abstract planes, as he or his heralds have demonstrated this before. Galactus possesses the ultimate nullifier, which is a part of him. It is so powerful that it completely removes whoever is hit with it from reality across all of time on a conceptual degree. Its existence erasure, but also removes you from causality and conceptuality. When Quasar was hit with the ultimate nullifier, he became one with oblivion. This makes sense, as the ultimate nullifier can even erase conceptual abstracts like eternity, both embodies and eternity, and the 7th cosmos. By doing so, all of continuity was erased and rebuilt within eternity. Wielding the ultimate nullifier makes you one of the most powerful beings in the omniverse. Even an embody of eternity contains higher forms of time and space beyond what may naturally be seen for a universal eternity. Embody created the eternity mask, which holds narrative substance throughout all of multiversal time and multiversal space. Also means Galactus has plot hacks, which makes sense since the ultimate nullifier would also remove you from continuity and narrative. Moving on to Galactus's final purpose, just as he survived the destruction of the 6th and 7th omniverses, he would survive the destruction of the 8th omniverse, but not to traverse as a passenger of that energy again. He would become the very energy that would spark the creation of the next cosmos. This Galactus would be stronger than Lifebringer, though, since eternity grows with each iteration, becoming more and more powerful. Galactus can change the dimensions of his body, becoming larger than a planet, the size of a star, or almost the size of a galaxy. He is capable of erasing all emotion from one's soul, making them completely subservient to his will. Oh, and let's not forget that not even death can claim Galactus. Galactus is capable of regenerating from complete physical annihilation, which means the Big G has low godly regen at least. Now, let's find out what Dr. Manhattan brings to the table in terms of abilities and versatility. As we all know, Dr. Manhattan is capable of manipulating matter. Heck, he can manipulate it on a micro quantum level. An example of this is when Dr. Manhattan killed Roscoff by disassembling his entire atomic structure. He can disassemble objects with just his mere thoughts alone. We've seen Manhattan use absorption tactics. This is shown when he absorbed energy from the Green Lantern's ring and absorbed magical attacks. Wally West states that John is full of connective energy, which is essentially a form of positive cosmic energy, opposite in nature to the negative crisis energy wielded by beings like Perpetua. Oh, remember what I mentioned previously at the start of Manhattan's AP scaling? You know, the part where Mr. Mixie states that Dr. Manhattan's abilities are far superior to his own. This is good for Manhattan, as it adds on more versatility to his arsenal. Versatility that is far superior to the versatile 5D imp. You may be wondering, what does Mixie have? Well, let's find out, folks. Mr. Mixie has been shown to unmake the art and plot. Mixie was able to turn Superman into a cartoon and gave Superman cartoon physics. Emperor Joker, who has Mixie's powers, made a few superheroes into his own image by changing what their powers were. Something else to keep in mind, reassembling himself was the first thing that Dr. Manhattan learned. He has walked on the surface of the sun and experienced events that would be far too fast for humans to comprehend. Dr. Manhattan experiences firsthand the reboots in DC's continuity, and yet he remains unaffected. And additionally, John exists in every timeline simultaneously. This essentially means that Dr. Manhattan has acausality type 1 and 3. Type 1, time paradox immunity. Characters with this type of acausality are rendered immune to changes in the past and standard temporal paradoxes, but remain just as vulnerable in the present and can be affected by normal causality manipulation and similar abilities. And type 3, temporal permanence. Characters with this type of acausality are incredibly difficult to kill, as other versions of themselves from other points in time and or from other universes can survive the destruction of the original and act in their place. This also grants them immunity to changes in the past. And lastly, John is able to look into the future, having seen a month, year, century, and millennium into it. Okay, now that's going to round up both combatants, so let's break this fight down. So for the first round, the Lifebringer that would scale to the Superflow only, unfortunately, in terms of AP, falls short compared to Manhattan. Manhattan has higher AP than Lifebringer, especially with Manhattan's insane feats and scaling that would put him above the Superflow scaling of Lifebringer Galactus. So I'd have to reward the AP to Dr. Manhattan, especially being above Mr. Mixie and Perpetua, etc, just crazy scaling right there. And then in terms of speed, both characters have relative speed, so I don't really see like a speed blitz happening per se. Now as for win cons, Galactus has a good win con, which would be his layered mind hacks, which I think would take out Dr. Manhattan. There isn't any direct mind resistances for Dr. Manhattan, so I think that would be a really good win con for Lifebringer. Lifebringer has his plot hacks, but I don't think the plot hacks will help. Dr. Manhattan was unaffected by the changes in DC and the narratives and the continuity changes that occurred, and Dr. Manhattan scales above Mr. Mixie, and Mr. Mixie is known for his plot hacks, so I don't think it would work. The main issue I have with some of these win cons, despite them being very potent, destructive and useful, is in character. I don't see most of them being used in the situations and the combat scenarios. Unfortunately, I don't really see like Galactus using his mind hacks or anything like that in character, so I'm gonna go ahead and break it down nonetheless. So at the start of the fight, in character, Dr. Manhattan would start off trying to start a conversation with Lifebringer Galactus. In character, Manhattan is very curious and would try to talk to Lifebringer Galactus. Lifebringer will be very cautious, especially with his cosmic awareness in effect. Dr. Manhattan will talk some crap by intellectually talking down to Lifebringer and being weird. Lifebringer will try to read his mind and try to talk him down once he knows what Manhattan is capable of. This is definitely in character, especially when Lifebringer was facing against Molecule Man, who threatened to erase Lifebringer with just a thought, and Lifebringer Galactus was using his cosmic awareness and he was just trying to make sure he didn't make any mistakes. So in character, the cosmic awareness info analysis will definitely help in this fight. It helped Lifebringer get an understanding of the situation. Now, Lifebringer will try different tactics to try and make sure that Dr. Manhattan does not steer to the point where he will engage in combat, but unfortunately this would simply prolong the situation, and Manhattan would just simply grow tired of Lifebringer's lack of substance and would find him uninteresting, and Dr. Manhattan will attempt to get rid of Lifebringer by poofing him away with his powers. Lifebringer will retaliate in anger and strike Manhattan. Manhattan will easily shake off the attack in disappointment, considering the fact that Dr. Manhattan does have the AP advantage. Lifebringer will try to blast him with lasers, but will ultimately proceed to get one-shotted by being disassembled by Dr. Manhattan. So in the first round, I give it to Dr. Manhattan more often than not, and even if we use out of character arguments such as the mind hacks and the plot hacks, etc., Manhattan has his precognition and his high tier A causality to see whatever Lifebringer would do before it would occur, as Dr. Manhattan can see his own future in his own battles. So if he was to fight Lifebringer, Lifebringer would be a part of Dr. Manhattan's future, so he'd see it all happen before it even occurs. The thing is, both combatants have ways to take each other out, but again, the issue with some of these hacks is that Lifebringer in character just won't resort to them right off the bat, compared to his normal purple self, who would happily use and abuse most of his hacks. But this Galactus behaves a lot differently than his purple self, so I'd see him more so trying to use methods to defend himself, or just trying to use methods to get a fix on his opponent. But ultimately, I'd have to give this first round to Dr. Manhattan. It really wouldn't matter in this round, given the fact that Dr. Manhattan does have the AP edge over Lifebringer anyway. So moving on to the last round. Now, the second round, this will include the Lifebringer Wellspring scaling for Lifebringer's Galactus. Galactus would be in the respective ballpark with his Wellspring scaling. He would be conceptually beyond his previous scaling from the Superflow. However, Dr. Manhattan does scale more into AP. He'd scale 100 times into it. He'd be 100 times more stronger into High Altiversal compared to Lifebringer Galactus, as mentioned previously. So if this fight was to occur, it'd basically just be a rinse and repeat. It's just really unfortunate. Dr. Manhattan still has the AP advantage, has the resistances and his acausality and precognition, and he would just do away of Lifebringer Galactus. So ultimately, I have to give this fight to Dr. Manhattan. His hacks are way too potent. His AP is just more potent and more impressive than Lifebringer Galactus is, and I just don't see too many ways for Lifebringer Galactus to do much to Dr. Manhattan, and because of in-character arguments, it does limit Lifebringer a lot. So overall, I have to give this fight to Dr. Manhattan. So anyway guys, Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Leave your likes, comment down below, subscribe if you enjoy my content, and that will be it. I'll see you guys in the next one.